So we are at chapter 6, and then I have some bookmarkers marker, and I think today is Sunday, which means by the end of this week, I will finish this books, which is Khan taught me. I think you have known me from the previous videos, and I don't know, you just found me out. I feel it so good, like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, which finishes the book. And talk about today's video is chapter 6, and it says it's not about trophy. It's not about trophy. I don't know what does it mean, but we will know in a few. Let me do something. Uh, yeah, it's not it's it's not a lot to study, but I do have a lot to I do have a lot to study. Hey, is that yeah? Uh, we are at chapter 6. Remember, chapter 6. It's not about a trophy. If it's not about the trophy, then what it is about? I don't know, like what the hell I'm talking about. I feel like that. And I think I should play some soft music on the background. Let me. Yeah, this might be fine. This is the first time doing this, by the way. I used to do complete silent reading, and this is the first time I'm using in background music just to check how much focused I will be. It's nothing much. I'm just trying to do an experiment on myself. What's the best way that I could read a book? Simple, nothing super fictional. So let's dive into the today's video. If it's being too much distracting, then I will close that video. It's already quite bit distracting, so I'm not gonna use this. I'm gonna do silent study. And I do have some book markers here. It's not like stylish, not what is it? Everything about the race was going better than I could have hoped. There were enough clouds in the sky to blunt the heat of the sun. My rhythm was steady as the mellow tide that's lost. I placed my heart of sailboats docked in the nearby San Diego Marina, and though my legs felt heavy, that was to be expected considering my tapering plan the time before. Besides, there seems to be losing up as I rounded a bend to complete my ninth lap, my ninth mile, just an hour and change into 24-hour race. What? That's when I saw John Madge restrict up the San Diego only, eyeballing it with the start finish line. I was holding up its white board in public computer at the time and position in overall field. I was in fifth place, which evidently confused him. I offered a crisp nod to reassure him that I knew what I was doing, that I was right where I was supposed to be. Hmm. He saw through that shit. He saw through that shit. Marriage was a pattern, or polite and soft spoken. It didn't look like there was that good page, but he was also seasoned ultra marathoner with 35 miles races in his saddle life. He would rather reached or topped 100 miles 7 times. He had achieved this personal best of 144 miles in 24 hours when he was 50 years old, which is why it meant something to me that he looked on sound. I checked my watch. Thanks to the heart rate monitor I wear around his chest, my pulse started magic. Number 145. A few days earlier, I would run into my old parts instructor, SPGs. It enabled special warfare command. Mod sales to rotation as instructors between deployments and SPG I worked there. When I told him about San Diego, one day he insisted I wore a heart rate monitor to pace myself. SPG was a big gig when it came to performance and recovery, and I was AJ scratched out a few formulas. They turned to me and said, keep your ball steady between 140 and 145. It will be golden. The next day, he handed me a hot monitor as a rest day gift. If you set out to mark a course that could op- crack open an ABC like a walnut, chew it up, and he it out, spit him out. San Diego's hospitality point would not make the cut. We're talking about torrents of vanillas is straight downright sane. Tourist descended restaurant for the views of San Diego's stunning marina, which spills into Mason Baby. The road is almost entirely smooth asphalt and perfectly flat, save a brief 7-foot incline with a piece of standard suburban driveway. There were manicured lawns, palms, trees, and shade trees. A splitty point was so inviting that disabled convalescent folks had there with the walkers for the afternoon rehab stroll at the time. But the day after made chocolate easy on my course, it began scene of total destruction. I should have known a breakdown was coming by the time I started running at 10 a.m. on November 12, 2005. I hadn't run more than a mile in 6 months. I looked like I was fit because I would never stop eating the gym. While I was stay, stand, stand in Iraq on my second deployment with SEAL Team 5 earlier that year, I've gotten back into serious powerlifting, and my only dose cardio was 20 minutes on elliptical once a week. That the point is, my cardiovascular fitness was absolute joke, and still, I thought it was a brilliant idea to try and run 100 miles in 24 hours. Okay, I was always a bad idea, but I considered it doable because 100 miles in 24 hours demands a pace of just 100 15 minutes a mile. If it came to it, I figured I could walk that fast. Only I didn't walk. When that horn sounded at the start of the race, I took a photo and zoomed the front of the pack. Exactly the right move. If you race the goal, uh, also I didn't exactly come in well rested. The night before the race, I passed the shielding, had the gym on my way up, base up to work. Big in like I already just to see what's getting up right. As busy was warming up and calling out Goggins, he said, let's check some steel. I love history. Goggins? He said, stepping closer. When the Vikings were getting ready to the red plane, they were camped in the woods in their golden tents. Waking out of the air, I and sitting around campfire. Do you, do you think they said, hey, let's have some herbal tea and call it early night? Or they were more like, we're going to take some vodka made out of some mushroom. We get all drunk up, so the next morning we all hungover and this up they would be in ideal mood to slaughter something. On the one hand, the man would always be my board's instructor, and he was one of the few instructors who was still hard putting out. And leaving the sea lithos every day. I would always want to impress him. Taking weights the night before my first 100 miles would definitely impress the masochistic man. Plus, his logic made some sense to me. I need to get my mind ready to go to the war, and lifting heavy would be my way of staying all of your pain and misery. I am ready to go, but honestly, what does the before running 100 miles? I shook my head and split through my back to the ground. I started racking words with heavy metal by from the speaker to like all draggers came together to put the my stuff my work focused on the legs, including lungs and squatted legs. It's 15 pounds in between we bench press 225. That was a real powerlifting session. And afterwards we sat on the bench next to another watch our quads and hamstring quiver. It was funny until it wasn't. Ultra running has gone at least somewhat in strength since then, but in 2005 most races, especially the San Diego day, were pretty obscure, and that was all new to me. When the majority of people think ultras, they picture trail run through remote ultras and don't often engage in circuit races, but there are some serious rounds in the field of San Diego one day. This was the American National 24 Championship, and the athletes descended from all over the country looking for a trophy, a place on the podium, and most winner take all the cash prize of $2,000. No way, that was a guided event, basking in corporate sponsorship, but it was side for a team from between the US ultra distance national team and a team from Japan. Each side fielded teams out 4 men and 4 women who each in 24 hours. On the top of individual athlete, the fielder so was from Japan. Her name was Miss Inikagi and Orlean CNK Pace. This is the picture of, oh my god, look at this dude, he's jacked. David Goggins is jacked with a Ikigagi, a girl from Japan. Japan. I had nothing to write on. SPC turned up to cheer me on that morning with his wife and 2 year old son. They huddled up on the sidelines with my new wife, Kate, and whom I married few months before, a little over 2 years. After my second event from Palm was finalized, when they saw me, they couldn't help but tug all over in laughter. Not just because SPG was still picked up from our work the night before, and here I was trying to run 100 miles, but because of how out of place I look. SPG is not long ago, the scene still made him laugh. So ultra marathoners are little weight, right? Especially. And that morning it was like they were all the skinny college professor looking granular eating weirdos, and then there's one big black dude who's like linebacker from the Raiders running around his track jacked with no sort of and I'm thinking that song in the garden of one of these is not like the other. That was the song going through my head when I saw that NFL linebackers running around the damn track with all these skinny little nerds. I mean, they were some hard and those runners. I'm not taking that away from them, but they will are super clinical. Our nutrition and shit. You just put a pair of shoes on and said, "Let's go." It's not wrong. I didn't put much through in his race plan it on. I had it at Walmart the night before, where I bought a fold-out lawn chair for Kate and me to use during the race and my fuel for the entire day. A box of Ritz crackers and 2 4 pack of my Plex. I didn't drink much water. I didn't even consider my electrolyte potassium level or eat any fresh food. SPJ brought me a pack of hottest chocolates donuts when he was so dumb. I got up those in few seconds. I mean, I was winning for real. At my 15, I was Still fifth place, still keeping my pace with Miss Nikagi when Mitch was going more and more nervous. He ran up to me and tagged along. You should slow down, David, he said. Pace yourself a bit more. I shrugged. I got it. It's true that I felt okay in that moment, but my bravado was also defense mechanism. I knew if I started planning my risk at that point, the biggest it would be become much comparable. It would feel like I'm supposed to run the lane of the damaged sky. It feels impossible. In my mind, strategy was the enemy of the moment. Oh, okay, okay, I got this. There is something that I think can. If I started planning the race at that point, it will the biggest weight of it would be too much comparing. In my mind, strategy was the enemy of the moment, which is where I needed to be. I think I should check this one. This one is good. I feel like this one is good. Strategy. I finished mile 25 at about 5 hour mark and I was still fifth place. Still running with my new Japanese friend. SBG was longer and Kate was only my support crew. I would say her every mile posted up in that lodge, offering a sip of my flex and encouraging spot. I will run a marathon only once before while I was stationed in Guam. It was unofficial and I ran it with a fellowship on the course which made up on the spot, but back then I was in excellent cardiovascular shape. Now here I was bearing down and to 26 miles just for a second time in my entire life. This time without training, once I got there I realized I wouldn't be in no territory. I had 20 more hours and nearly 3 more marathons to go. Those were incomprehensible metrics with no traditional milestone and between to focus on. I was running across the sky. That's when I started thinking this could be in badly. Miss didn't stop trying to help. It married from also and set me on. And me who I am. I told him that I had everything under control figured out, which is true. I figured out that John made me he was talking about. Oh yes, pain was becoming real. My chest throbbed. My feet were tired and bleeding. The simple question once again bubbling on my frontal lobe. Why running a 100 miles without training? Why am doing this to myself here? Questions, especially since I haven't out of the San Diego on the theory before this day. But this time my answer was different. I wasn't on a hospitality point to deal with my own demons or to prove anything at all. I came with a bigger purpose than David Goggins. The fight was about my own future fallen teammates and the families they live in when shit goes wrong. Or at least when I was told at my 27. I had gotten the news about the Operation Red Wings, a doomed operation in the remote mountain of Afghanistan, on my last days of the US. Army Free Falls School in Yuma, Arizona, and during Operation Red Wings was the four-man reconnaissance mission taken with gathering intelligence on a grouping pro-Taliban force in a region called Saldo Sar. If successful, what they would learn would help define the strategy for longer offensive in the upcoming weeks. I know all four guys. Danny Dees was in the boss class 231 with me. He got injured and rolled just like I did. Michael Murphy, the IOIC of the mission, was with me in class 235. He got told. Matthew Election was in the way class when I graduated, and Marcus Luttrell was one of the first people I met on my original left through bots. Before training begins, each incoming bots class through a party, and the guys from previous class who are still in bots training are invited. The idea is to use as much information from ground source as possible because you never know what might happen through through crucial evolution that could make all the difference between graduation and failure. Marcus was 6 foot to 25 pounds, and he stuck out in the crowd like I did. I was a bigger guy though, back up to 210 by then. He sought out me in some ways. We were odd pair. He was hard Excel handled from the Texas England, and I was self-made assassinist from Indian accomplice. But heard I was a good runner, and running was his main weakness. Goggins, do you have any tips for me? Because he asked, because I can't run shit. I knew Marcus was a badass, but his humility made him real. When he graduated a few days later, we were in our class, which meant we were the first people they were allowed to order a crowd. They embraced the seal tradition and told us to get wet and sandy is the seal rite of passage in honor to share with him. After that, I didn't see him for a long time. I thought I ran into him again when I was about to graduate with class 235, but it was his twin brother Morgan Luttrell, who was part of my way class 227 along with Matthew Election. We could have ordered some poetic joysticks, but after we graduated, instead of telling their class to go get wet and sandy, we put ourselves on the stop and dress white. I had something to do with that. In a Navy SEAL, you were either developed in operating the field, instructing other SEALs, or in school yourself, learning or perfecting skills. We cycled through our military schools because most then we trained to do it all. But when I went through bots, we didn't learn to free fall. We jumped by starting lines, we deployed our choose automatically. Back then, you had to choose to attend US Army Field School. After my after my second platoon, I was picked for Green Team, which was one of the training phases to get accepted in the Navy Special Warfare Deployment Group, an elite unit within the Navy SEALs. That required me to get free fall qualified. I was also required that I face my fear of heights in the most confrontable way possible. We started up a classroom at Wind Towers of Fort Bragg, California, Carolina, which is where I reconnected with Morgan in 2005. Floating on a bed of compressed air in a 15-foot high wind tunnel, we learned correct body position, learn how to shift left and right, and push forward and back. It takes a small movements with your palm to move, and it's easy to start spinning out of control, which is never good. Everyone could get mastered those subtitles, but subtly is what those of us who left Fort Bragg after that first week of training and headed to an aspirant in Cactus Field of Yuma to start jumping for real. Morgan and I trained and hung out together for 4 weeks in that 127-degree heart of the summer. We did dozens of jumps out of C-130 transport jets from altitude ranging from 12,500 to 19,000 feet. And there is no rush like the source of adrenaline and paranoia that comes with plummeting to earth from high altitude at terminal velocity. Each time we jumped, I couldn't help but think of Scott Carina, the pararescue man who survived a vortex jump from high altitude and inspired me to on his path when I met him in high school. He was a constant presence for me in the desert, proof that something could go horribly wrong on any given jump. When I jumped out of the aeroplane for the first time from high altitude, all I felt was extreme fear, and I couldn't pray my eyes from any altimeter. I wasn't able to embrace that jump because fear had clogged my mind. All I could think was about whether or not my canopy would open. I was missing the unbelievable thrill ride of the free fall, the beauty of the mountains painted against the horizon, the wide open sky, but I became conditioned to the risk. My tolerance for the same fear increased. It was always there, but I was used to discomfort, and before long, I was able to handle multiple tasks on a jump and appreciate the moments too. 7 years earlier, I've been rooting around fast food kitchens, and open dumpster diving barman. Now I'm flying. The final task in Europe was a midnight jump in a full kit. We were weighted down with a 50-pound rucksack strapped with a rifle and an oxygen mask for the free fall. We are also equipped with same lights, which are necessary because When the black ramp of C-130 opened, it was pitch black. We couldn't see a damn thing, but still we leaped into that moonless sky. Eight of us in a line, one after another. We were supposed to form an arrow. And as I maneuvered through the real old wind tunnel, it to take my place in the grand design, all I could see was shivering light streaking like a comet in an inky sky. My goggles fogged up as the wind ripped through me. We fell for a few minutes. When we deployed our juice, it's around 4,000 feet. The overpowering sound went from a full tornado to eerie silence. It was so quiet. I could have heard my own heartbeat through my chest. It was bliss. And we all landed safely. We were free fall qualified. We had no idea at the moment in the mountain of Afghanistan. Marcos and his teams were locked in all out battle for their lives. The center of what would become the most worst incident story. One of the best thing about Yuma was that you have horrible call service. I'm not big on texting or talking on the phone, so they gave me 4 weeks of peace. When you graduate any military school, the last thing you do is clean all the areas your class used to like when you were never there. My cleaning detail was in charge of the bathrooms, which happened to me because one of the real place that has call service. As soon as I walked, I could hear my phone blow up. Text message about Operation Jet Wings going bad for it in, and I read them my soul broke. Morgan hadn't heard anything about it, so I out of found. He not considered himself in my brother's not dead. Morgan is in 7 minutes older than Marcus. They were inseparable as kids, and the first time they would ever be. But for longer than a day, it was Marcus joined the Navy. Morgan opted for the college before joining up during Marcus' service. He tried to step the whole week in solitary. He wanted and needed to share that feeling. But there is no such thing as a hell week simulation. You have to go through it, know it, and those that survive are forever changed. In fact, the period after Marcus survived the hell before Morgan became a sin. Still himself was the only time there was an emotional distance between brothers, which speaks to the power of the 130 hours and the emotional toll. Once Morgan went through it for real, everything was right again. They each has they each have a trident tattooed on their back. The picture is only complete when they stand side by side. Morgan took off immediately to drive to San Diego and figure out what the hell is going on. He still hadn't heard anything about the person directly. But once he reached civilization and his service sheet, a tide of messages flooded with his phone too. He flew over his gentle car to 120 mile and jumped back to the peaceful radar. I mean, I suck at reading. Morgan knew all the guy on his brother unit while Alexon was his classmate in Mars. And it's fact because it was obvious to the most that his brother wouldn't find alive. I thought it was gone too. But you know what they say about twins? I knew my brother was out there alive. Morgan told me when we connected again in April 2018. I said that the whole time. I would call Morgan to talk about old times. I asked about him the hardest week in his life from San Diego. He flew out with the family, ranch in Anstowell, Texas, where they were getting a best twice a day. Dozens of fellows will turn up to the show. Suppose Morgan said and 5 days long, and his family cried themselves to sleep at night. When officials from Pentagon arrived, Morgan made himself clear got class mark. Maybe however, but his life is recovered in Pentagon. I will. Oh, Operation Red Wing went horribly wrong because there were many more pro-Taliban hijacks active in those mountains than had been expected. And once Marcus and his team were discovered by the villagers there, it was 4 guys against a wild army armed military of somewhere between 30 to 200 men. One our guy took RPG and machine gun fire, but hard. Four saved four sails can put on a hell of a show. Each one of us can usually do as much damage as five regular troops, but they made their presence felt. The battle played out a long range of mental repeat and evaluation where they had communication troubles. When they finally broke through the situation and made plan to their commanding officer back at special operation headquarters, how could reaction for some Navy SEALs were in aviation from 16 special operations was the same one, but they were really hard, lack of transparent. In Afghanistan, with the highest rise with the army and their delayed relief, they eventually loaded up into two Chinook transport choppers and four attack helicopters and took up for the Saldosa. The Chinook took the lead as they closed in the ridge. They were hit by a small arms fire. Despite the onslaught, the first Chinook, however, attempting to unleash a fat target lingered too long and were, were hit with a rocket propelled grenade. The Watson crashed into the mountains and exploded. Everything aboard was killed. The remaining choppers bailed out. By the time they could return with ground ashes, everything was left behind, including Marcos' three teammates on the operation radar were found dead. Everything that is except for Marcus. Marcus was hit multiple times by enemy fire and went missing for 5 days. He was saved by Afghan villagers who nursed and sheltered him, who was finally found alive by the US troops on the 3rd of July 2005, when he became the lone survivor of the mission that took the lives of 19 special operation warriors, including 11 Navy SEALs. No doubt you have heard this story before. Marcus wrote a best-selling book about his lone survivor, which became a hit movie starring Mark Wahlberg. But in 2005, that was all years away, and in the aftermath of the worst battlefield to never read the sales. I was looking for a way to contribute to my family, all the men who were killed. It does not like bells stop rolling in after a tragedy like that. There are wives and kids out there with basic needs to fulfill, and eventually they would need to their college education covered too. I wanted to help in any way I could. A few weeks in before all of this, I would spend an evening googling around for the old toughest food races and land on the race called Bada Water 135. Bad water, oh sorry. Bada Water, what the hell is Bada Water? Bad water 135. I had never thought of ultra marathon before, and but bad water was an ultra marathon. Ultra marathon, not ultra marathon. It started below sea level in the valley and finished at the end of the Mount Road Whitney Portal of Trailhead located at 8,374 feet. Oh, the race that takes place in late July on Death Valley isn't just the lowest on the earth, it's also the hottest. Seeing images from this race materialize on my monitor and to me. The terrain look all kind of harsh, and the expression on touch order face remains me the kind of the thing I saw in Hellweek. Until then, I always considered the marathon to be the pinnacle of endurance racing. I was seeing that the several levels we need. I filled the information away and figured out I will come back it someday. Then Operation Red Wing happened. I was bored to run bad water on 135 to raise money for the special Operation Warrior Foundation, a non-profit foundation. As a battlefield promised in 1980, when eight special operations warrior died in a helicopter crash during the famous hostage rescue operation in Iran and left several children behind. The surviving servicemen promised to make sure each one of these kids had the money to go to the college. Their work continues within 30 days of a fatality like those that occurred during Operation Red Wing. The foundation hardworking staff reached out to the surviving family members who had the interfering and said executive director Eddie Russell. We became a part of our student lives. They further pay school and private touring during grade schooling. They arrange college visits and host peer support groups. They also help with application by books, laptop, computers, and printers and cover tuition. At whichever school one of the student managed to get acceptance or not to mention room and board. They also send a student to vocational schools is it up to 8 kid. Is there at the foundation has 1280 kids in the program. They were amazing organization which they've been mine. I called Chris, postman restrict of the bad water at 35 at 7 a.m. in the mid-November 2005. I tried to introduce myself. I tried to introduce myself with hours. But it caught me off. Do you know what time it is? He snapped. I took the phone away from my ear and studied for a second. In those days, that by the scientific I would have already talked towards him already for the table for these two it was okay. Um, I will call you back at 9. My second call didn't go much better, but at least he knew who I was. SPG and I already have discussed bad water, and it would remember personal recommendation SPG as triathlon captain that came through the equal challenge and was Super Olympian qualified as intermediate boss. In his email to Cosman, he wrote that I was the best Indonesian athlete with the greatest mental toughness he had ever seen to put me up from knocking the top the least minute told me I still dodge. He treated me straight to the Chris Coast man. He was the definition of unimpressed. Oh, it depends. The kind of unimpressed that can only come from real world experience. When he said 20 years old, he would compete in a race across America bicycle race and before taking over a pet or a race director, he would run 300 miles in winter in Alaska. Completed a triple Ironman triathlon week ended with 78-mile run along the way. He has done a successful great athlete crumble beneath the end weight of ultra. Weekend weekend warrior signed up for and complete marathon after a few months training ultra but the gap between marathon and becoming ultra is much wider and bad what was up FX up ultra omnibus. In 2005 they were approximately 2,200 miles is held in the United States and non that's a combination of elevation gain and unforgiving it that better to 131 brought to the table. Just to put on that list, Coatsman had to wrangle permission and assistance from the government agencies, including the National Forest Service, the National Park Service, and the California Highway Patrol. And he knew if he allowed some of the greenhorn in the most severe receive were confused in the middle of the summer, that person might die. His race would evaporize overnight. No, if he was going to let me compete in bad water, I was going to have to earn it because earning my way in would provide him at least comfort I probably wouldn't collapse. It's still in a pile of roadkill somewhere between Death Valley and my Whitney. In his mail, SBC attempted to make a key that I would was busy working at Shield. Basically, required to compete at Bedford to complete some at least 100 miles races or 20 hours race, while covering at least 100 miles. So beware, if I was allowed in, especially consider our friends on the top 10. Explain all the having the definitely big. Influence with standard over this, including championship and numerous they no shit in nearby exam. One thing about me is I'm the same with everyone, Postman said when I called him back. We have started standards for going into our races, and that's why it is. But hey, there is this 24-hour race in San Diego coming up this weekend. He continued his investigation, go around 100 miles and get back to me. I was unprepared. He suspected the fact I wanted to run in bad with no line, and I planned to train for it. But to have it no chance to do it, I would have to run 100 miles to the drop of a dam if I had choose not to. After all the Navy SEAL bluster, what would that prove? That was another pretending spelled way too loud early on Wednesday morning, which is how why would I be running Sunday one day with 3 day notice. After passing the 50-mile mark, I would no longer keep up with my missing guy who bound it or it like a damn rabbit. I stole out on the further quick straight pain was so my thigh felt like they were literally diabetic at the motor start with I took on my heels and keep my legs moving for traffic to lift my feet or minimize from not on edge my feet, my bones are becoming more brittle by the second. My two men retrievers was needed 10 hours. Still I ran not fast, not with my sister, but I kept going. My jeans were next to me to fall. The soft alerts to the ankle joint felt like a soft travel, like pain now flowing through my marrow of the beer. It brought back memories of my doctorate from class 235. But I didn't bring any tape with me this time because if I start even past few seconds, starting up again would be nearly impossible. A few miles later, by long siege with my sister's place, I moved to the north of Brownview because it get cold. I became short of breath. Fog gathered around the Halloween street light, ringing the lamp with electric rainbows. Which challenged the whole event or the weightless field, or maybe it was just me in the other world with tongue or language seems to memory. With every long scraping cough, I flashed to my first boss class. I was back at the log study or at my lost bleeding. I could feel line C tapping all over the and not stay outside. I was losing towards to reality in small doses because my mind was falling over unsaid, loading tremendous physical pain with the dark emotional garbage it had dragged up from the level. From the depth my soul transmission, I was suffering unknowingly where he was from down without the top beside the bridge to the cookie bastards like me who felt like they would push the limits of safety to their couple of helmets. Right, well, I hadn't done this. I hadn't run 100 miles with zero turning. Had anyone in the history of mankind ever attempted something that foolish? Could he, this even be done it on? I reasoned off that one simple question. Sit back like a digital ticker on my brain skin. Bloody paper was floated through my skin as well. Why you are still with this to yourself? I hit the incline at mile 69. That 7 foot ramp, the piece of salad I drive away. You should make any scissor journal laugh out loud. I buckled my knees and said with a really backward like a typewriter talking to I started raised for the ground with the tip of something and nearly capsized. It took 10 seconds to cover this chance. Its own dragged out like an elastic thread, sending soft like a pain from my toes to the space where my eyeball. I hacked and coughed, my god twisted. Claps went immediate. Claps is the thing what I deserve. At 70 my mark, I could take another step forward. Kate had to sit up her long chair on the grass nest talking time when I turned to her. I saw her interpreting section creeping toward me into the folding chair when I was dizzy. They registered policy my sodium. It was a nurse. I had aimed to training and through my mental checklist. I knew my blood pressure was probably dangerously serious. My full pain was no sun top in elevation. My white two socks were caked in blood from cracked toenails and broken blisters. I asked her to grab some morphine. I think she thought my value from some mate. And when she was gone, my body continued to decline. My stomach rumbled, and when I looked down, I saw bloody piece leg down my leg. I sit myself too. Liquidified diarrhea rose in the space between my ears and a launch that would never be quite the same. Was I had tried it because I knew if kids how bad I realized it would make me to pull up the wrist. I had run 17 miles in 12 hours with no training, and this was my reward to my leg. Now, the days and got back on my place only muscle head leg would be choose the thickest protein to drink on my hydrating agent of the choice. Next to it was a half box of Ritz crackers. The other half concealing and turning in my stomach and incision track like an organ blob. I sat there with my head in my hands for 20 minutes. The hours of all gratitude stretched past me. I felt like time ticked down on my ass with amazing. A economy stream, get return, nailed down, and it to lesser situation of the extent of my breakdown. And I hadn't on me it. It was something at least in her hand were welcome. They buy from more my plates and more rice crackers. She handed me more than some cookies or two peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, which I was with get down with catering. Then said Miss Ten. The word oval on the axis again she split into two. Then Tracy held me there as my word is flat. I took so much to all of you. Such big memory. Slowly, way too slowly. When I stopped at 70 miles, I was below it. 100 miles. That was only getting worse. That's why I felt that this part was double. Around 19 miles more to 15. No, this wrong. I determined that is it to push myself to bring up this does not only it was about. So I was waiting to suffer out. I'm not to some shit. I stayed down my legs, I could still trail of dirt fish and blocks to my inner thigh and to myself. Only you goggles you haven't trained you don't know about hydrogen purpose. And it's quite why it's funny when it comes to as of the most challenging goals and absolutely nothing. We are talked in our comfort zone. I was just at warm shower. It was fair. I what I was comfortable and looking back. I have been inspired to do something different. I was in software because it all sounded doable when you were sitting on a couch with a glass of lemonade on a chocolate shake in your hand. When you are comfortable, we can't answer those simple questions. What are bound to rise without a battle because we don't even realize they're coming. But those answers are very important when you are no longer in your air conditioned room under fluffy blanket, when your body is broken and beaten, when you are confronted with agonizing pain starting into the unknown in my spirits. by taking into the cookies are when things are going south. Takes focus and determination because it's fast your brain doesn't want to go there. It wants to remind you that you are suffering and that your goal is impossible. If it wants to stop you, so it can stop the pain. The night in San Diego was the most typical night of my life physically. I never felt super good and there was no soul to take. I wasn't competing for the trophy. There was no standing in my line. All I had to do was to keep myself going was me. The cookies are became my energy bank. Whenever the pain got too much, I dug into it and took a bite. The pain was never gone, but I really felt it like it might have been was otherwise occupied, which allowed me to turn the simple question at the same time. Each lab became a victory lab, celebrating a different cookie in a small pile. My 81 became 82 an hour and a half later. I was in 90s. I was on 90 miles, white dot, the seat an hour later. What? I was 95 and I could remember I ran one more lap just to make sure after running around a mile my race was finally over. I stagged to my lodge chair and gate, placed the campfire bone leaning over my body. I saw the fog streamed over me after my vision was blurred. I remember feeling something warm on my leg and when I looked down I saw pissing blood again. I knew what was coming next. The boat up 40s or about 40 feet away, which maybe will happen for 10 miles per thousand. I tried to get up, but I was too dizzy and glad no back to chase and no immovable ability to accept the inevitable truth that I was or to shit myself. It was much worse this time. My entire back and lower back was smashed with one pieces. Kate knew what emergency looked like and we two out with a Grammy. With a Grammy? Wow! Back of the car keys in trouble said me. My leg were stiff as fossil for an instant and I leaned on her slide on the back seat. He was frantic behind the wheel and wanted to make to the airport to come home. 11 seconds ago, automated complex Kulopista and I landed on the back with my arms around her neck. As she laid out of the sequence of meters, she took her up on the top and I don't feel so anymore. I came to the kitchen floor a few minutes later. My back was still smeared seat, my thigh cake and blocked and even my feet were blistered and bleeding in two places. Seven of my toenails were dangling loose, connected only by tears of dead skin. We had combination of top and shower. She got the shower before helping me to crawl to the bathroom and climb to the top. I remember lying there naked with the shower breathing on me. I feel like it would look like a tear and I remember being okay, but instead of blood it what came out like a thick brown bile. Wait, wait, get Stevens on. Today I must use been raised with my friend and also my symptoms better today I might be kidney failure and I need to go to the ER immediately. Tongue out of something is stormed by and found me lying on the leg of it. It was a we need to go to ER and they stop talking out to cry through the age. I heard most of the what she said, but I knew if I went to the hospital, they would give me painkillers, and I didn't want to mask the pain. I was just accomplished the most amazing feat in my entire life. I worked harder than weak, and weak more significant to me than becoming a Navy SEAL, more challenging than my deployment to Iraq because this time I have done something I'm not sure that uh, anybody had ever done before. I ran 101 miles with zero preparation. I knew then that I would be shooting myself short. There was no one new level of performance out there to tap in that the human body can withstand and accomplish a hell of a lot of more than I think possible, and that it became in some mind. That was a theory. It was something after in a time I have experienced in firsthand on hospitality point that had passed the pain and suffering. This was my trophy ceremony on this was confrontation that I would must start on my way, especially why. And that's what I would just accomplish was something special. Is I lay there curled on the top, severing in fetal positions, lays the pain. I thought of something else too. I could run 100 miles with zero training. Imagine what I could with little preparation. That that was a hell of a book. Ah, that's too much. And now talk about Challenge 6. something very good like challenge 6. Take inventory of a cookie jar and crack a journal open and that all out. Remember, there is no some basis to your personal problem. Don't just write down the it's wrong with some video up five up so your cover is quickly spreading cover all the percent set up at the line start filling. Rather than general doing successful work. Then get to work. Mm. Achievements. Set ambitious goal because each workout. Let those past victories carry to your new personal goals. If it's on a bike or try to increase some time to do interval workout, challenge yourself to beat your best mile split. Or simply maintain a maximum heart rate full minute or then 2 minutes if you are at home for some push-ups. To as many as possible in 2 minutes, then try your best. With the pain, here's a try to stop your shot on your goal, drop your fist in it, pull out a good and let it feel. If you are more focused on a dedicated trainer, train your brain to study harder, longer than you or record with books. Read a record number of food ever given number. Air pizza can help that too. Because air performance is challenged correctly and truly challenged to choose even has point in exchange. When bored or sell dog kicks, you will need to push back to where the cookies are is a shortcut. If it felt hard to remember this part, it is to remember what a badass you are so you can energy to succeed again later. Battle first remember it's a message of the productions will include the hashtag and turned out the achievements and the points. So in this chapter 6, it's not about trophy. I think David Goggins talk was about doing for yourself rather than doing for the trophy or the prize. And something has said that uh, got my attention was like even though if you are feeling too bad and there is no like your life is challenging, then you have to look you have to look for the small victories in your life. You have accomplished something such as reading books, doing push-up pull-ups, losing weight, getting marks. Those are the small challenges you have accomplished, and you have to use them to fuel yourself.